Today we're going to discuss why Balenciaga is the best, and not just from a clothing point of view, but from an overall brand perspective. So if you're new to fashion and you've never really looked at the context of a show, or if you just want to join in on the discourse, please feel free to leave a comment. When you talk about a brand, of course, there's not just one person. There's a whole creative team behind the creative director that brings to life what we eventually as the audience sees. Margiela, at the end of the show, he would always have the design team come out to really show how important a cohesive unit is. So, how does this relate to Balenciaga? Balenciaga has an architecture program and it's led by Berlin based studio Sub. And along with Demna, they give us these viral moments like the Flood Show and the 360 Snow Show. So, the first show they worked on was for summer 2020, and the whole set design was saturated in a European Union blue. There were 500 chairs set up as a double helix for the audience, which gave a very disoriented feeling.
When we did the Parliament show, it was very linear somehow. Yeah, it started with this. It almost looked like someone who would guide you through the Parliament and let you have your seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was that. I don't know how they call them. There's probably a name for those. And there was a bit of a humor to it in some way.
The Parliament setting furthers Balenciaga's take on power dressing. Also, it's a nod to Demna's Eastern European communist upbringing.
As a boy, he experienced civil war, and his family were refugees for a time. He might be the only major designer who's known totalitarianism firsthand.
And I really love the looks in this show as it really shows the influence Martine Rose had on Balenciaga during her time at the brand. I'm aware that these shows are planned months in advance, but the extreme use of the European blue to come out right during the era of Brexit shows how good Balenciaga is at capturing the zeitgeist. Along with the 360 Snow Show, which happened 2 days after the Russian-Ukraine conflict started.
This show actually coincided with the date of the UK leaving the European Union. It represents a big identity shift for my generation, and I want to try to capture this feeling that was at the tip on everyone's tongue, present yet unarticulated.
Sub says that with Demna, they start out with a feeling behind spatial awareness or a visual representation of a word. This creates a moment where there's enough information and detail given, but it's still broad enough for the show to be left up to interpretation. Here's a clip from Demna describing the Flood Show a little bit more.
It was very dark and somber and sinister. I think intentionally, because to me it was linked to my personal life, to my upbringing, the role of religion, the constraints that came with it, the culture I come from, the darkness, the black color, the long clerical clothing, and all of
You
that.
have the runway and the first couple of rows submerged in water, and you also have a screen that is projecting an image of water on top of the water to create this dream-like mood.
Mood board! Water in fashion shows, mood board! Walk on water, baby!
This show really guides the audience to think about climate change. One could say that fashion has a indirect and direct conflict on climate change, but you could also say that having a fashion show that merges climate change discourse speaks on the issue even louder. What's cool about this show is that it acts like a prequel to the 360 Snow Show. With the warmth and flooding that's going to come from climate change, we're going to have to end up manufacturing events like snow in the future, which is what Balenciaga literally does in a later show.
Mon idée, c'était vraiment c'est le commentaire sur tout ce qui va se passer dans l'avenir, les choses qu'on a aujourd'hui et qu'on n'apprécie pas vraiment, qui vont disparaître. Et on va devoir vraiment aller dans les endroits où c'est une expérience artificielle, comme celle-là. C'était un peu faire voyager dans l'avenir qui fait peur.
Sub says that to make a lasting impact, they plan out the entire design experience before the audience has even entered, and that within the space they can use signifiers and objects so that we as a viewer can go home with a very lasting vision. But with COVID, we didn't really have that same access, so Balenciaga came out with a video game, which is something they've always wanted to do, but COVID slowed down time enough for them to be able to actually go through with it. Garments from the 2021 collection were 3D scanned in, allowing for us as the user to pick an NPC, put clothes on them, and the NPCs kind of represented the models. Balenciaga is really good at meshing the audience with the context of the show.
The audience is always active participants in the spaces we design. With our design strategies, I hope to generate an awareness of the audience's own agency, but this is not always so evident. In doing so, we need to operate as schemers and plotters. This is when stagecraft holds another meaning beyond its theatrical association.
In a GQ magazine, Sub talks about how fashion is a man's second skin and architecture is the third. They quote, "Fashion is obviously about the body, but architecture is an extension of it." You see that in the Parliament show, and you also see that in the 360 Snow show, as the audience was behind a glass wall.
The audience discovers the white circle behind the glass wall. The 360 degrees scenography gives its name to the collection, which is called 360 degrees.
In this show, they made a weather machine, which created an artificial blizzard. This blizzard got progressively worse as the show went on, making it harder for the models to walk.
I think the wind got stronger when I was walking, pushing me back a little bit, but it was manageable.
We have the vile trash bags, and it could mean taking out life's trash, or a more real perspective of your country's being invaded and you have to flee, and you don't have time to put everything in a nice Rimowa or Tumi. I love this clip from one of the Sub co-founders explaining it as well.
The show featured models walking amidst a simulated blizzard that grew in intensity as the show progressed. A curved glass wall separated the audience, seated in 2 rows in a darkened corridor. From the environmental simulation, which include atmospheric effects such as wind and fog, as well as lighting design that accentuate the show's dramatic arc, we used the same vendor that engineered the glass facade for Apple Campus 2. The materials, colors, and composition of space was there to emulate a kind of analog smartphone, where the blackness of the glass that separated the audience from the performance functioned as a screen in multiple senses of the word. The clear separation between the simulated storm and the protection of the seating gallery intended to emphasize the audience's active role as a viewer.
Balenciaga also had a show at the New York Stock Exchange, which is a stage in itself. Sub came in and gave it a more cinematic touch and feel, along with Demna's BDSM designs and Adidas collab. My favorite show from Balenciaga so far has been the Summer 2023 show, and they collabed with artist Santiago Sierra, and together they made a whole runway out of mud. This show is a reference to Santiago's exhibit titled House of Mud, where he covered the walls and floors of 2 rooms in a gallery.
The gallery is a place where you normally find everything clean and everything protected, like a Tower of Ivory, no?
Yeah.
No implications of bad morality, whatever. It was a protected space, no? But art gallery is many things, and one of these things is a space of work. It's like a factory.
Demna is quoted saying that this show was about digging for the truth and being down in the earth. For the latest couture show, it was held in the same building that Cristobal worked in from 1937 to 1968. The design strategy here was to restore the building back to its original character. So you see this room with the sculptural archways, with this flat, dusty white color, lined with golden chairs to kind of reflect how old historic photos looked. Basically to make it look like it had been untouched since Cristobal left. So to speak on the clothes of this show, I think you do see the house codes represented in a very modern way. I don't think that is repetition that Demna has been doing with Balenciaga. I think it's perfecting, and I really like that he's been taking a legacy brand and carrying their house codes into the future with his own touch. In addition to the set designs, the architecture program has also done most of their retail stores, and this adds to the overall cohesiveness of the brand, which is why I think we have such a cult following when it comes to Balenciaga. Sub has also done a lot of things outside of Balenciaga. They did the free Larry Hoover concert with Ye and Drake, and they also worked on Donda 2, the set that had the burning house. Also recently, they have worked with Travis Scott with an album rollout and set design for one of his tours as well. So hopefully this video has inspired you to look at your favorite shows and the overall context as well. I know that another architect, Rem Koolhaas, has done really cool things for Prada. I could do a whole nother video on how architecture has influenced fashion, even talk about Craig Green. But for now, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And like always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
D'une dizaine de centimètres. Fendez cette ligne.
fendait cette ligne.